Welcome, adventurers. Grab your gear, it's time to get your swords together, grab your shields, get your holy items, get your keys ready, because it is time for us to announce the Adventurerathon! I've wanted to run a readathon for forever. As you guys know, I really like D&D, I really like playing fantasy games. One of my all-time favourite games is Skyrim, and I was thinking about D&D and Skyrim, and I was thinking about sort of like the different, how with each one you have different pathways that you can choose, and you have sort of like, you can create your character. Even though you have a main quest line with most of these kind of adventures, you've always got like little side adventures that you can do, and that's where the idea kind of came into being. And that is where we then got to Adventurerathon. So this is kind of like a choose your own adventure type scenario. There have been similar readathons. For example, Magical Readathon, you get to do different things to pick tools and stuff for your character. Holly Hearts Books used to do the Medievalathon, so every time you got to choose a medieval character and you had a set quest line to follow. There was Make Your Myth Taker, where you got to choose various things. So there's various ones out there, and I just wanted to add mine to this roster, and it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. And I'm just going to talk you through with this video about the readathon, talk you through like the rules, and let me tell you, there's not many. Let you know how it's going to work, talk through all of the prompts. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. Some of them I am going to give you a little bit more insight into, and then at the end just give you a little bit more information about dates, etc, etc, and what's going to be going on throughout the month. Yeah, I'm just really excited. So with the Adventurerathon, it's running from the 1st to the 30th of June. There's no formal sign up or anything like that. You don't have to register to do the readathon. You can choose to just do it or not. The only thing that you have to do to submit is if you want to be entered with a couple of giveaways that I'm going to be running throughout. And if you want to be formally entered with your points, you need to track your points, and every time you hit 500, there is a form that you do need to fill in. There's also an optional form for every book that you complete, so you can fill in a form there, but those are the only sort of admin things that you have to do. There's no like teams, there's no tracking, there's no sort of formal things with that. You don't have to tell me that you're doing the readathon. It's just very loose and very relaxed. In terms of books, the minimum number of books that you must read to complete your chosen pathway is 4. And then if you do every single side quest and every single book that is optional, there are 11, plus 1 non-reading prompt for every pathway. So how this is going to work is you have a look through all the prompts, look through all the different pathways. There are 7 in total. You can choose to be an assassin, a pirate, a sovereign, a holy warrior, a merchant. This is where I start to forget what I've done. A mage or a hunter. You can choose any one of those 7. Have a look through the prompts, and then to complete your prompts and to be in with the chance of the giveaway, you have to do the following things. For every character pathway, you must firstly choose a tool or a weapon. There are 2 options for every character. You must choose a minimum of 1. Then you have to choose a special skill. There are 3 available for every pathway. Then you have to fulfill your destiny. So every pathway has an overall sort of quest line that is like the overall goal. To attain that goal, you have to do a starting quest. This is usually quite a basic thing. So for mage, it's just read a book with magic. For pirates, read a book with pirates, because you know you always have to start with the foundations and you have to learn about the thing that you want to do. And then there will be a final quest, which is usually a little bit more challenging or has a bit more of a complicated theme to it, or is more specific to the overall end goal. And so you must complete the starting and end quest. Once you've done those 4 things, you're finished, you're done. There are a certain amount of points for each of the quests and things like that. So for every tool and skill that you pick, you earn yourself 100 points. For every main quest that you do, so the starting quest and the main quest, you get 150 points. So basically, if you do the 4 main prompts, you immediately will earn 500 points, which is 1 entry into the giveaway. Every side quest will be 100 points, and then there'll be other adventures and quests and challenges scattered throughout the month, and they will be worth 50 points each. And like I said, every time you hit 500 points, there will be a form that you need to submit, because I obviously don't know when you hit those points and when you've completed those prompts. So every time you have hit 500 points, just submit the form, and it will have a box there just to ask you to break down where you got those 500 points. So if you haven't completed the optional form where you can just submit every time you complete a prompt, then that is where you will need to, just so I can verify that, okay, you have completed each of the prompts. But all that will do is it will just ask which books have you read and what prompts did you fulfill. It's not super strict, it's not super in-depth. And that is it. Literally, it's just read your prompts, log your books, earn yourself some experience points, and be in the chance of winning. So for the giveaways, I have 2 that I'll be running, and they will be drawn on the last day on Friday the 30th during the final live sprints that I'll be doing. There will be 2 that I'll be drawing. There'll be an international one that I will draw in the morning of GMT, because that will then be that should hit the most number of international participants. And then the UK one I will draw in the afternoon, evening time of the UK one to hit as many UK participants. So there's different prizes because of postage costs. For the UK giveaway, it will be a book books up to the value of £20, plus one of the candles of your choice from my shop. Because if you don't know, I am a small business owner, I have a candle shop. So you can take your pick of any of the ranges, any of the candles, and you'll get a free candle and books up to the value of £20. For the international prize, this will be a voucher or amount up to £30 transferred into your currency worth of books. Because obviously international postage is expensive. Throughout the month, there's going to be extra bits as well. I have plans for a little cosplay contest, so if you want to dress up and submit a picture of you dressed up as your character, you can. There's going to be a couple of quizzes that I'd like to do throughout. Over on Instagram, I will be doing an Instagram photo challenge, and these prompts will probably make you be a bit creative as well, because there will be some that will get you out and about exploring. And yeah, I'm just hoping to do various things that will give you as many opportunities to get involved and do things that don't just require reading, and just have a bit of fun. So yes. In regards to pathways, you can do as many as you like. The only kind of rule that I would say is that you can't switch pathways while you're halfway through one. So you do need to complete a pathway before you can then move on to another one. So just keep that in mind when you are choosing your pathway. Make sure that you are going to complete the 4 prompts. And as far as books go, as long as it is on Goodreads, it's valid. I quite often these days, I now pick 2 books when I'm doing Readathon TBRs. I have a novel, and then I usually have like a graphic novel or a manga to back it up. So that way, if I don't feel like reading the novel, I've got a backup that's a bit shorter and quicker and easier. So there's no restriction on how many pages, etc, etc. Okay, so those are the rules, etc. And like I said, if you think I've missed anything off, please do let me know and I will answer it below. And now is the moment we're probably waiting for, which is going to be all of the prompts for every single pathway. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go through every pathway. I'm going to shuffle over a little bit so I can show it up here. And then for every single one, I will talk through each of the prompts. Most of them, as I said, are pretty self-explanatory, don't really need any explaining. I'm not going to give any examples of the prompts because I'll be releasing a video next week that will have recommendations not only from myself but from a small group of volunteers that I have accumulated Thank you so much. You all know who you are and you've saved my butt. Because some of these prompts have been quite hard to try and find prompts for, recommendations for. Some of these do need a little bit of explaining, or I just wanted to explain my reasoning behind why I chose them, because I was quite proud of why I came up with these ideas. Just as a recap, you get to choose between 2 tools, and just an FYI, all of the tools or weapons are going to be things with stuff on the cover. 3 skills, and then you have a starting quest and a main quest that you must complete. You don't have to do all of these, you only have to choose 1 from each, and I made it quite nice and handy, so if all you want to do is the main quest line, it's all just on this first slide and you don't have to worry about the second slide, which is nice and easy for you. I have tried to make these prompts as open as possible, so even though a lot of these are at a first glance inclined towards fantasy, through the help of my volunteers who have helped me with recommendations, most of them also can fit contemporary, and there are a couple of pathways where I've deliberately built them so that they are geared more towards a contemporary sort of choice, and I've even got one where I've tried to give it more of a poetry and non-fiction, so there's a bit more variety, and hopefully everyone, no matter what your reading tastes are, you can find something to fit your reading tastes. So for the assassin, your main quest line is to assassinate or overthrow a corrupt ruler. Your tools, you can choose between a dagger or a lockpick. For dagger, you have to read a book with a dagger on the cover. And then for lockpick, because assassins quite often need to break into things and you need to know how to unlock stuff. So lockpicks is to read a book with a key or a keyhole, and if you can't find either of those, a lock on the cover. For skills, you have poisons, which is to read a book about poisoners, stealth, which is to read a book that you forgot you own, or to join a guild, which is to read a book featuring guilds, clans, or gangs. Your starting quest is to read a book featuring assassins, because to be an assassin you need to learn about assassins. So read a book featuring assassins, and your final quest is to read a book that features a corrupt leader or government that's been either killed or overthrown. For your side quests, you have the following. You have I Want It, I Got It. So that's to read a book that you bought after you saw it on somebody else's shelves. Whether it be that you saw it in a bookstore and you had never heard of it before and you saw it and went, oh, that looks cool, and picked it up. Or you saw it on like a selling post, or you saw it on a YouTube video and the cover caught your attention. Anything like that where you just saw it randomly, liked the look of it, or randomly heard about it and you went, oh, I want that, and got it. Then we have steal something valuable, so read a book with a heist. Bribe someone, so reread a book that you have recommended the most. So if you've got a book that you know that you have recommended to people multiple times, or it's a favourite book, or there's a book that you've got that you really want to reread it. And then take a hostage, so read a book featuring kidnapping or abduction. And then your non-reading prompt is procurement, which is to buy a book. Please don't steal. Next up, we have the Holy Warriors. This, you may notice on the original slide that I put up on social medias, this was originally clergy, but that I'm saving for a different time. So I have slightly changed it to a holy warrior. The main quest for this one is going to be saving a town from a horde of the undead. Your tools are a symbol of faith, so a book with a holy item on the cover. This might be a cross, a rosary, a symbol of the gods, anything like that. Or holy armour, so a book with shield or armour on the cover. Your skills are healing, so a medical setting, or if you can't find a medical setting, a book that features healers. Exorcism, so a book of poetry, or there is maybe a book in verse. If you don't particularly do poetry, you might have a book in verse. And then finally, purification. I'm quite proud of this prompt. So purification, almost like it's renewed and made fresh, and it's a fresh start. Therefore, I thought second chance author would be a perfect prompt for this idea. Your starting quest is to read a book featuring religion. And your final quest is to read a book featuring the undead. So vampires, zombies, what else counts as the undead? Mummies, anything like that. Werewolves do not count because they are alive. They are not undead, just FYI. And then we have side quests. First of all, attend mass. Read a book from a series of 5 or more books. You can read any book in that series, it doesn't have to be the first book. Cast a blessing, so read either a book or an author that brings you comfort. Complete a pilgrimage, so finish a series. And study the forces of evil, so read a book that features devils, demons, or ghosts. And then your non-reading prompt is to learn your scriptures, which is to either write a poem or attend a poetry event. Next up we have Hunter, and for this one you're going to be hunting a mythical creature. Your tools or weapons, first of all you have a bow, so that's a bow or a crossbow on the cover. Will give you a warning, this one has been notoriously difficult to find prompts for recommendations, so I will also expand that to allow for arrows. Next up is animal companion, so an animal on the cover. This does not have to be the animal that you want for your animal companion. So say you wanted a fox companion, you don't have to read a book with a fox on the cover, but if you can find one, excellent, but it doesn't have to be, it can be any animal. Next up are your skills. So herb gathering, and this one I'm being quite specific, it's a book about plants. So what I'm saying here is it has to be a book where the book actually features plants as part of the book. So for example, I just have one right here. Daughter of the Moon Goddess has lots of plants on the cover, but the book itself and the storyline isn't about plants pretty much in any way, shape or form. So it would not count. Whereas this Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron is about plants and plant magic, therefore does count. Next up we have lore, so that is to read a book that is a local legend. So for example, if you're in the UK, you might want to read an Arthurian retelling because the story of King Arthur is local to the UK. If you live in Scandinavia, you might want to read something to do with the Norse gods. As long as it is local and as long as it originated from wherever you're from, it counts. And then survival is a book set somewhere you have never been. Your starting quest is to read a book that features the mythical creature you wish to pursue. Pretty self-explanatory. If you want to read a book if you want to hunt a dragon, read a book with dragons. If you want to hunt the fae, read a book with the fae. If you want to hunt a unicorn, read a book with unicorns. And then your final quest, because you are hunting a mythical creature, they are quite legendary, so you need to read a pretty legendary book. So this is to read a book over 600 pages. For your side quests, first of all, you have gather pelts for winter. So read a book with claws, antlers or fur on the cover. Then it's explore a new terrain. So read a book that's set either in the desert, forest or mountain setting. I would say challenge yourself and read whichever one of those three you've read the least. So for me, I don't think I've ever read a book in a mountain setting. I know I've read 1 or 2 desert settings, I've read loads in the forest, but I don't think I've ever read anything actually set in a mountain. So that is where I would go for. Then we have learn to hunt and track. So read a book that you found by surprise. So this might be something like maybe there was a special edition that you didn't know was being done. Maybe you were in a charity shop and you saw a book that you weren't expecting to see because you've never seen it in a charity shop. Something like that. And then the last reading prompt is don't eat that. Or can you? So read a book that you're not sure you're going to enjoy. And your non-reading prompt for this one is go exploring. So go outside, whether it be that you go for a 10-mile hike or you stick your head out the window for 5 minutes and take a few deep breaths. It's up to you, but in some way, shape or form, go outside, get some air. For the mage, your main quest is to make a new magical discovery. Your tools are a wand, so a magical item on the cover. This can be a cauldron, a wand, a staff, potion bottles, anything like that, or a spell book, which is to read a book with a book on the cover. Your skills, we have alchemy. So alchemy is quite often the merging of elements and chemicals and things like that. So that is to read a book that features 2 or more genres in one book. So this could be like a historical fantasy or a sci-fi horror, anything that merges 2 or more genres. Then we have evocation, which is elemental magic and school of destruction, so to read a book with an element featured in the title. The final skill for mage is scrying, so set in the future, and this does have to be an Earth future, so can't be a fantasy world, it can't be a sci-fi like on another planet, it has to be Earth and a real future. Starting quest for mage is to read a book featuring magic. Like, you can read any book with magic, that's fine, and magical realism, I will count that as well. But I just think it would be quite cool to try and find a book that has like a unique magic system. That would be really cool. And then the final quest, we're making a new magical discovery, so read a book that is a 2023 debut author. For your side quests, we have learn the basics of magic, which is to read a high fantasy. And for high fantasy, I'm just saying any fantasy that is set in another world. Submit a research paper, so read a light or dark academia book. Study the Stars, which is a book set in space. Attend a magical academy, which is a book in a school setting. And then this is one of my favourite non-reading prompts, which is potion brewing. So create a drink for your character. This can be alcoholic or a mocktail, but basically create a drink that represents your character. Then we go on to merchant. So your main quest is going to be opening up your very own store. Your tools are bookkeeping, which is to read a book with coins on the cover. Now again, this is one that has caused a lot of headaches for those of us trying to find recommendations. So for that one, I'm going to say that if you can't find coins or money, then I will also allow you to expand it into sort of wealth. So things like jewels and jewellery, something that shows someone has a lot of money. Or a caravan, which back in fantasy lands and medieval times is usually like a store that's on wheels and they can travel around with it. And that, rather than the caravans that we know in our world. And that is a book with a store on the cover, ideally a storefront, but if you can't find anything with a storefront, then go for an interior. Your skills are cooking, which is baking or bakery, general goods, which is to read a non-fiction, and jewelcraft, which is a shiny book. Your starting quest is to read a book featuring your dream job, whether that be in the real world dream job or a fantasy dream job. I promise I'm not going to judge you if your dream job is to be an assassin, because there are plenty of people in my lifetime I've wanted to kill. And your final quest is to read a book set either in a cafe or a shop. Your side quests, we have learn your craft, so read a book that features a mentor type character. Train abroad, so if you are living in Oceania, you are to read a book set in Africa. If you live anywhere else in the world, you are to read a book set in Oceania. Then it's create your first product, so read the first book in a series. Promote your business, so read a book that you saw advertised everywhere or a book that you know had a really big campaign and was heavily marketed. And then your non-reading prompt is restock your supplies, aka retail therapy, so go shopping. Next up we have pirate, which is also going to be my pathway, so I'm quite excited for this one. Your tools or weapons, we have sword, which is to be a book with a sword on the cover, or a ship, which is a ship or boat on the cover. Your skills are sailing, which is to read a book set at sea, navigation, to read a book featuring travel, or dueling, which is to read a book featuring a tournament. If you're really struggling to find a book that you want to read featuring a tournament, I will also allow a competition. That then also opens up for things like more contemporary reads, because tournaments tend to be more fantasy, whereas competitions tend to be more things to do with contemporary, like it might be a high school competition, might be like a business competition, etc. Your starting quest is to read a book, unsurprisingly, featuring pirates. And then your final quest is to read a book about a great treasure or fortune. So this also will include things like an inheritance. The side quests for pirate, we have search for buried treasure, which is to read a book with a map. Adopt a parrot, which is a bird or feathers on the cover. Spend time ashore, what do pirates do when they're on shore? They have a lot of sex, so read some smut. Escape capture, just to read a book where the characters are on the run or fleeing from something or someone. And then your non-reading prompt, and I'm really excited for this one, is to count your coins. So flip a coin. Heads, you need to watch Pirates of the Caribbean. Tails, watch Our Flag Means Death. And then last but certainly not least, we have the Sovereign. The main quest for this is going to be to ascend the throne. Your tools, we have crown, so obviously crown on the cover. Throne, which is a seat on the cover. Originally this was just to go for a throne, but I have realised this is exceptionally difficult, so I've expanded it to seat on the cover. But if you can get a throne, amazing. Choose your skills. We have public speaking, which is a book that predominantly is either set on radio or TV or just features a radio or TV show quite heavily. Delegation, which is a random selection, so this might be a poll, it might be your pet chooses, it might be random number generator, you might just throw a dart at your books. Please don't throw darts at your books, it's a really bad idea, but you know, you get the idea. Anything that means that you have to delegate how the book is chosen. And then lawmaking, which is a book featuring lawyers or law enforcement if you can't find lawyers. Your starting quest is to read a book featuring royalty, and your final quest is Coronation Day, so read a book that features a coronation. Your side quests, we have Make a Speech, which is to read an inspiring read. Border Skirmish is a book with themes of conflict that feature heavily. Finding Your Royal Spouse, so a wedding, or weddings just feature, so it might be the main character is a wedding planner, something like that. It doesn't have to be that the main event is a wedding. And Getting to Know Your Subjects is an autobiography, memoir or biography. And then finally is the non-reading prompt, which is to host a royal ball, so dance party, just stick on your favourite tunes, have a party, have a boogie, maybe go karaoke, something like that. But either way, something to do with music, have fun. So those are all the prompts, those are all the pathways. Let me know below which you are considering joining, and if you've got any recommendations for any of the ones that I said were quite difficult, please do link them below as well so I can add them to the recommendation video. But yeah, like I said, next week I will be going through every single prompt again, but this time I'll be recommending, with the help of some friends, some books for you to add to your TBRs. I'm really excited. I can't wait. I already have so many ideas and I'm just really, I'm excited. It's going to be fun. And I'm going to create a drive that I'll link below. It might not be active when I post this, but it will be active very soon. And yeah, I've just realised that at recording, I'm currently nearly at 40 minutes of footage, so I'm going to stop there. But I really hope you do join us. Please do give us a follow. All the social media links are below. I'm really excited. I'll see you all next week for the recommendation. I'll see you on June the 1st for the launch of the Readathon, and June the 3rd will be when I do the first round of reading sprints. I do plan on going all day, as long as this decides not to kill me and I'm not working. Anyway, I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. I really hope you're excited and plan on joining us, and let me know below what your plans are for the Readathon. And I'll see you soon.